Rashad, why you didn't
Anyways,
hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
brother, I love you, brother. Trump,
What's up, Rashad? What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.
Well,
Happy birthday to Ruby Bridges. She turned 71 today. Ruby. Wee, wee, wee. This is by Shay Dawson, edited by Karina Gonzalez. This is Women's History, National Women's History Museum. Ruby Bridges has always been a civil rights advocate, with her experience of being the first Black child to enter an all-white school in the South, making her a household name. Though her experience in school was a harrowing due to the blatant racism and targeting of her family, Bridges never missed a day of school. Presently, the Ruby Bridges Foundation and Bridges herself continue to host speaking engagements and write children's books to strive for an end to racism in America. All of us are standing on someone else's shoulders, someone else that opened that door and paved that way. And so we have to understand that we cannot give up that fight, whether we see the fruits of our labor or not. You have the responsibility to open the door to keep this thing moving forward. Ruby Bridges, The Guardian, 2021. Guys, Ruby Bridges charges for interviews. Do y'all think I should? I don't pay for interviews, but with someone like Ruby Bridges, I was about to say Ruby Rose. Do you think I should pay for it? Let me know. If you think so, comment down below. Say yes, pay for the interview. And if enough people say yes, pay for the interview, I will pay for the Ruby Bridges interview. And I will bring Ruby Bridges on the channel, bro. It might even be in person, but guaranteed it's going to be at least virtual, on camera, on stream, everything like that. Ruby Bridges was born on September 8th, 1954, to Avon and Lucille Bridges, who had married the previous year and lived in Tylertown, Mississippi. Avon worked as a mechanic and was a veteran to the Korean War, while Lucille was employed in domestic work roles. 2021. When Ruby was 2 years old, the family relocated to New Orleans, Louisiana, seeking a better job opportunities and higher quality education for their children. Smith, 2021. Their move, coincided with the pivotal movement in American education, as 1954 was the same year as the U.S. Supreme Court issued its landmark decision in Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, which declares racial segregation in public schools unconstitutional. The Supreme Court ruled that separate, quote-unquote, educational facilities were inherently unequal. Library of Congress, 2004. This decision required all schools to desegregate, providing Black students with the opportunity to attend what were once all-white institutions. Segregations, both by law and by custom, started soon after abolition of the abolition of slavery in the 19th century, though various amendments of the Constitution have been passed to provide African Americans with the rights to citizenship and the right to vote, and other legal decisions were made that work to nullify those amendments. Both socially and politically, African Americans were, quote unquote, regulated to the status of second class citizens. Pilgrim, 2000. They were separated by their white counterparts, not only by the law, but by the, quote unquote, private action in transportation, public accommodations, recreational facilities, prisons, armed forces, and schools in both the northern and southern states. Library of Congress, 2004. Furthermore, the Library of Congress expands on this, stating, quote unquote, in 1896, the Supreme Court sanctioned the legal separation of the races by its ruling in H.A. Plessy versus J.H. Ferguson, which held that separate but equal facilities did not violate the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment. Library of Congress, 2004. The Brown versus Board ruling in 1954 overturned these separations in the realm of education. Even with this ruling, Louisiana struggled to enact integration. It was not until November 14, 1960, that Louisiana schools began to desegregate due to an official order by federal judge Skelly Wright, Norman Rockwell Museum, ND. Schools could refuse, though Judge Wright made it clear, quote unquote, they could opt out. They could opt to close if they refused to integrate. Devlin, 2020. Bridges' opportunity to attend William Frantz Elementary School as a first gender came at the request of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. The NAACP worked tirelessly to eliminate the legal obstacles that upheld the public school segregation. They became aware of Ruby when they discovered that she was one of 6 children who passed the required entrance exams. The exams were aimed to see which African American students could succeed within an all-white institution. Bridget's father said to be reluctant, but her mother was eager for her daughter to have this opportunity. Lucille's mother and father did not have the opportunity to receive an education, and she had to leave school in the eighth grade to assist her parents in the fields. This prompted her to encourage Ruby to pursue an education no matter the trials that lay ahead. With this decision, Bridges became a trailblazer at just the age of 6 years old as the first African American child in the South to attend an all white elementary school. The impact of integration. On Bridges' first day at William Frantz Elementary, she had to be accommodated by U.S. Marshals. Protests from white parents and officials led to concerns for her safety. In fact, quote unquote, white parents in Louisiana vehemently protested the idea, and the school boards and politicians sought to block desegregation in the state. Once let into the school, Bridges was brought into the principal's office immediately. She recalls that the crowd that was outside, they immediately rushed in behind me. They started to run into every class, and they took every child out of school. So by the end of the day, 500 kids, quote unquote, were taken out. She mused that her entire first day was spent at the principal's office. Upon attending, this is crazy, bro. Is it crazy? A 6-year-old, bro. Jeez Louise. Upon attending the once all-white school for the first time, Bridges was not only faced blatant discrimination, but was also the only student in her class. Her teacher, Barbara Henry, was a white woman from Boston. She solely taught Bridges for the entirety of first grade. Many years later, Bridges spoke highly of Henry and remarked that, quote unquote, even though she looked exactly like people outside of the school, she showed me her heart. Despite these circumstances, Bridges never once missed a day of school. She was escorted each day by her mother and the U.S. Marshals. The racism she faced while attending school took on various forms. Many white students' parents chose to homeschool them. Objects were thrown at her, and perhaps the most harrowing, Bridges recalls being, quote unquote, greeted by a woman displaying a black doll in a wooden coffin. Wow. Additionally, Bridges could not partake in the communal spaces such as the cafeteria. She brought her own lunch in fear of being poisoned, or the playground. She often played inside with her teacher. That's so sad. And when she needed to use the bathroom, she was accommodated by a U.S. Marshal. Though courageous, the choice to allow Bridges to attend an all-white school also impacted her family. Disdain for Bridges' presence at William Frantz Elementary caused Lucille to lose her job. Auburn lost his job, though he was encouraged by the NAACP to refrain for looking for work as it might put him in danger. This created tension within the home, though even Bridges' grandparents, who did not live with the family, were impacted negatively all the way in Mississippi. Bridges stated, quote unquote, I'm the oldest of 8, and at that point, he was no longer able to provide for his family, so they were solely dependent on donations and people that would help them. Wow. Her parents would eventually split because of their circumstances. Having recognized that as a young Bridges had to face a series of difficult life events in an incredibly short period of time, child psychiatrist Robert Coles volunteered his services to her. Though white, he aimed to support Bridges and her family. He conducted weekly visits. His career flourished and Coles eventually pursuing a career in studying how desegregation impacted young children. While circumstances often felt dire for Bridges, white parents started to change their minds. White parents began to allow their children to attend William Frantz, even though Bridges did not know at first. The principal of the school had been separating white students from her. Barbara Henry advocated for Bridges' inclusion with other students, pleading, quote unquote, the laws change and the kids can be together now. But you're hiding them from Ruby. If you don't allow them to come together, they're going to report you to the superintendent. The principal yielded at the end of the school year, allowing students to intermingle. Though exciting, Bridges' hopes were soon dashed. The young boy asserted that he was not allowed to play with her, calling her a racial slur. Bridges reflected that the moment he said that, it was like everything came together. All the little pieces that I've been collecting in my mind all fit. Then I understood. The reason why there's no kids is because of me, the color of my skin. Oh my goodness. That's why I can't go to recess. It's all some sort of came together. It's a very rude awakening. I often say that today that really was my first introduction to racism. Though she asserts that the boy was simply explaining why they could not be friends, it was an eye-opening experience that laid the foundation for the work that Bridges will do later in life. During Bridges' second year of attendance, circumstances changes. She was able to be in class with other students. She was no longer the only African American in her class, with the number increasing year by year. She was no longer greeted by protests every day. Barbara Henry eventually left that school, though she and Bridges will remain in touch. Bridges would go on to high school, which by the time of her attendance had been desegregated for just over a decade. Though not picture perfect, excuse me, as tensions remained between black and white students, her later educational experience looked at quite differently from that time as a first grader. Art, adulthood, and advocacy. Though Bridges' first steps into William France have been documented in photos, film, and even adapted into a film, one iconic work of art tells Ruby's tale. The Problem We All Live With was created by artist Norman Rockwell in 1963, just 3 years after Bridges made history. Rockwell's painting depicts being escorted into the school and most notably had been framed at her height so that the viewer can see things from her perspective. Passed in 2022. This work was met by both praise and heavy criticism. The painting featured in Look magazine, with some readers celebrating Rockwell's courageousness and others condemning it. As an adult, Bridges had appreciated the problem we all live with and Rockwell's decision to highlight her story. Quote unquote, here was a man who had been doing all of this work, painting family images, and all of a sudden decided, this is what I'm going to do. He had enough courage to step up to the plate and say, I'm going to make a statement, and he did it in a very powerful way. Rockwell went on to create other paintings highlighting racial tensions. The Problem We All Live With ushered in a new socially conscious era of our artists, just as desegregation ushered in a new era for America. Once Bridges graduated from high school, she set her sights, on leaving Louisiana. She became a travel agent for American Express. This role brought her the opportunity to travel the world for the next 15 years of her life. She left her job as a travel agent in the mid-30s, seeking a more fulfilling endeavors. Along the way, Bridges married Malcolm Hall in 1984, and the couple had 4 sons. Her brother was unalived in New Orleans in 1993, which also brought 4 daughters into her and her husband's care. In 1995, Robert Coles wrote a children's book entitled The Story of Ruby Bridges. Though her story was remarkable, not many recognized her day-to-day life. Cole's book put Bridges back in the mainstream conversation. She supported Coles by promoting his book. Disney then made a biopic entitled Ruby Bridges that came out in 1998. She served as a consultant on the film. Coles provided Bridges with the foundation in 1999. The Ruby Bridges Foundation stands for quote-unquote values, tolerance, respect, and appreciation of all differences. Bridges also published various books, including This Is Your Time, Through My Eyes, and Dear Ruby, Here Are Hearts. With her nieces still in her care, Bridges remained tied to William France Elementary as girls attacked the same school as their change-making aunt. Though upon noticing the school liked after-school arts programming, Bridges set out to make it happen. Then in 2005, Hurricane Katrina caused significant damage to the school, so much so that the local government intended to demolish it. Bridges stepped in, proclaiming that, quote unquote, I felt like if anybody saved the school, it should be me. And then the school got placed on the National Register of Historic Places, which guaranteed its preservation. The school had been since restored and remains operation. To show their thanks, the statue of Bridges is on display in the school's courtyard. Oh, okay. What school is this? The William France Elementary? Hold on. William France Elementary. Oh, bet. Say that. Say that, then, chat. Say that, then. That's all you had to say. Say that, then, chat. Say that. Okay, bet. Okay. William France. Hold on. William France Elementary. Oh, school. Dang, how am I gonna go? Dang, how am I gonna go? I do not know, bro. I don't know. But I want to go. Let me see. With nieces still in their care, they remain tied to William France Elementary as the girls attended the same school as their change-making aunt. Upon noticing that the school lacked after-school arts programming, Bridges set out to make it happen. Then in 2005, Hurricane Katrina. Okay, there it is. It's in the school's courtyard. Life and legacy. Ruby Bridges' courage cannot be understated. Her impact has far surpassed her first steps in William Frantz Elementary School in November of 1960. She has remained a vocal advocate for anti-racism and encourages kids to make meaningful connections with all peers of all races. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm talking myself into paying for it. I'm talking to myself for paying for the Ruby Bridges interview. I ain't gonna hold you. She's remained a vocal advocate for anti-racism and encourages kids to make meaningful connections with peers of all races. She's upheld the legacy of her parents, Abon and Lucille Bridges, her first grade teacher, Barbara Henry, and child psychiatrist Robert Coles, all of which sought out to provide her a solid foundation to enact change. She continues to pave the way for generations to come. Through her various advocacy efforts, Bridges' contributions, both past and present, have been recognized far and wide. She holds various honorary degrees from Connecticut College in 1995 and Tulane in 2012. In 2000, she made an honorary deputy U.S. Marshal. 10 years later, Bridges was honored at the White House. As of 2024, she was also inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Shouts out, bro. Ruby Bridges, dude. Ruby Bridges, what a story. I need that interview, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I need that interview, bro. I need that interview. And the last scene, we go back to.
Rashad, why you didn't hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
Brother, I love you, brother. Trump lit.
What's up, Rashad?
Yeah.
What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.